Hello and welcome. My name is Maria, and on behalf of myself and my global team members based throughout Hong Kong, Taipei, and London, Asia Art Hong Kong would like to thank you all for joining us in this very special online talk. We'd love to hear from you all, so please drop us a message in the chat box to let us know where you're joining us from. Today, I'm calling in from Taipei, and joining me from Hong Kong to moderate is Mr. Charles Ho of the Wall Street Journal, the media partner for our series of online webinars. We are grateful as well to our education partners, SOAS, the School of Oriental and African Studies in London. This museum talk is presented by Asia Art Hong Kong and supported by Dutch Days in Hong Kong. We are honored to present for the very first time the World Musea Forum. This series of online presentations features museums around the world that bring their unique vantage point to areas of collection management, education, conservation, and restoration, technology, public engagement, and development. Today, I am delighted to introduce from the Mauritshuis in the heart of The Hague, Director General, Ms. Martine Gosselink, and Project Manager of Digital Engagement, Ms. Sandra Verdel. In recent months, the Mauritshuis has undergone its most comprehensive project to digitize its collections, and now we are able to see the museum's beloved cultural icons in a whole new light. Some we will have a closer look at today. So the format will be in this way. Sandra will introduce the digital project and guide us through, as Martine gives us a closer look at these Dutch and Flemish masterpieces. Before we begin this talk, please feel free to type any questions you might have in the chat box, and we will save your questions for after the presentation. Without further ado, I would like to pass over to Sandra to begin. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Maria, and a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Sandra Verdel, Project Manager Digital Engagement and Head of the online team of the Mauritshuis. And I'm extremely proud today to welcome you to our virtual version of the Mauritshuis in gigapixel size. Well, as Maria just mentioned, we will be available for questions after this presentation. So if you've got any questions during the tour, please use the chat function and we will be happy to answer them later on. At the Mauritshuis, we as the online team, we are always looking for new ways to make our collection and the stories behind paintings more accessible to the public. And well, this was of course the case before COVID-19, but during the pandemic, when the museum was closed for several months and the communications were the online communications were the only way to communicate with the public, well, our online ambitions reached a whole new level. And I strongly believe that new techniques can help us, but they never must be the goal itself to obtain. Museum shouldn't turn into an amusement park, for example. Techniques can help us, but they can never be a fun trick to use. And well, I think this is exactly what is happening here. I'm convinced that you will feel the same way too when you wander around to the museum, the online museum, and well, it's really intuitive to use, it's easy to work, and while the technique behind it is very innovative and very new, I think what remains is well, the wonderful the paintings and the stories behind the paintings. That's what remains with the public. I think that's the best thing that you can reach. For this project, one of my colleagues wrote all the amazing and engaging stories about the paintings, making the project so attractive and showing you details that I can guarantee you have never seen before. So let me take you into the museum. I know you can wait to immediately discover the girl with the bow earring, but we're saving her for a little bit later. And first of all, I'd like to take you downstairs to the room of the Flemish masters. And here I can show you some more about the amazing zoom level you can reach. Just look at these frames. And some of the paintings have these symbols. And if you click on them, you can go into the painting and discover even more. This is one of my favorite paintings, especially in the virtual museum, because it shows what we can do here. It's Willem van Apelle's painting Campaspe. And if you discover this painting, you can see the added value of gigapixel and doing this tour. We're standing here in a room full of art. It's a dream collection. A collection itself that never existed. But the amazing thing is some of these paintings did exist. For example, this painting by Rubens, You can now find it in Munich in the Alte Pinakothek. And maybe you've also seen this painting here in the bottom. It's a painting that's now in the Louvre. You can see how we can zoom in to what level. We offer general information about the painting, as you can see here on the right side. But you can also enter an audio tour. If you click here, an audio tour starts and it's taking you through the entire painting. And this shows you all kinds of details with stories. It takes you through the painting itself. As you can see, it all gives a new information. And it also learned me some new things. For example, this is the story about Apelles and Campaspe. Campaspe was one of the concubines of Alexander the Great. And this is the painter who was supposed to paint her portrait, but he fell in love with her. It's an amazing love story. But when we zoom into this thing on the side, you can see this is the Paris judgment. It's the start of the Trojan Wars. And this is Paris, the main character of this scene. And when you look at the way he's sitting here, and you can compare it to Apelles on this side, well, suddenly I discovered they're in the same position. I'd never seen that in the museum myself. I would also like to take you to another painting in this room. And that's this one from Rubens and Bruegel. These were the two leading painters in the early 17th century in Antwerp. And they combined their strengths and painted this painting together. The famous Rubens painted Adam and Eve, and Bruegel, he painted all the animals in the back. And the story you can follow here, it shares the story of their successful partnership. You can see who painted what and what you can discover. Again, details you might have never seen in the museum. Now you can see it. And in this painting, we go even further. We also uploaded the infrared image. And this gives a whole new level of storytelling, because now we can show you the process of a painter painting a painting like this. As you can see, the dogs were a little bit further in the back. Well, now they're painted over here. So you can discover a lot more than you can ever see in the museum itself. And of course, the zoom level. Let's look at it. It's one of these paintings I just can't stop zooming myself. And I would like to take you upstairs again. As you can see, you can walk through the museum using these arrows, or you can use the map on the side. And here again, you can zoom in, standing across the room, and can even see these amazing frames really sharp. And you can also go up and see one of the few modern paintings in the Mauritshuis on the ceiling. And before I'm going to hand over to Martine, who will give you a short guided tour. I can imagine there is one question in a lot of your minds at the moment. Mauritshuis, aren't you afraid, after seeing this, that no one will ever go to the real museum again? Well, that's a question I get a lot when I'm showing this to people all over the world. And to me, I strongly believe the opposite is true. Once you have seen this museum in virtual world, and all the amazing paintings up close. And if you've read all the stories, you can only desire one thing, and that's seeing it all in real life. It's amazing to see it in the digital world, but it remains, you have to see it in real life to see it yourself. It's a different experience. So what are we using this tool for? Well, by start, everyone is welcome to wander through the museum themselves and discover all the paintings and all the stories. Entrance is for free. And in this way, we hope to make the museum accessible for people all over the world. We also offer live guided tours through the virtual museum, hosted by one of our museum guides. So you can actually, when you're in France, America, Brazil, Hong Kong, and you want to join the Mauritshuis, one of our guides can give you a guided tour through the museum. And behind the scenes, we are preparing some pre-recorded theme tours through the museum. You can start yourself. And another thing we're working on is a version with an educational purpose. And with this version, a teacher receives a copy of the Gigapixel Museum, and he can ask his students to prepare one of the stories. And all the students can upload their stories themselves into the CMS. And together they can create their own Mauritshuis tour, and the entire school can join the Mauritshuis and discover all the stories that were created. So to give you an idea of what it is to have a guided tour, Martine, I would like to invite you to the Mauritshuis as well. And I know you would like to start in this room, our Rembrandt room.
Thank you for giving the introduction, Sandra. Thank you for inviting us to fill in this program today. Of course, we will love to see you in real time, real life again, somehow, somewhere next year, perhaps, or the year after. But for this moment, this very moment, I'm so happy to be involved in your project and to be able to show some masterpieces from our collection. As a matter of fact, in the Mauritshuis, there are only masterpieces, and that's not something you say easily about your own collection because it sounds a bit, well, bit big, but it's true. We are a small collection, but outstanding. So I would say AAA and really worth a visit. One of my personal favorites is the painting you see right now. This is a small painting, a very small painting, and maybe you recognize the maker, the painter, that is Rembrandt van Rijn. He is, I think, the most evaluated, most loved painter from the 17th century in the Netherlands. You might perhaps know the Night Watch in the Rijksmuseum, but he painted hundreds of paintings, also himself, self-portraits. There are about 60 of him, and we have one of them as an old man. But now I would like to take you to this story. And my theme for today is women. So I will show you 4 paintings, and I will tell 4 different stories. And this actual story is about justice. Let me take you through it all. You see Susanna, and Susanna is one of the figures described in the Christian Bible, in the Old Testament. But the theme behind this painting, the theme behind the story, is something we can all recognize. It's about justice, and we all want justice to be done and to happen. Well, her story is a bit frightening because she's just about to take a bath in her beautiful garden. So she is naked, actually. But at the very moment she wants to dip in, 2 old men appear from the bushes. And maybe, Sandra, you are able to show one of them. He's in the upper right corner. You see his nose in the shade. And it's up there. Yes, here it is. And the second man, you only see a part of his head, his turban. Yes, exactly. So actually there are two men, but only one is clearly depicted and the other one is hiding. What are they doing there? Well, actually they are about to attack her. So Susanna is looking up in alarm. The two men behind her on the right, they will try to force her to have sex with her. And they are threatening to spread slander about her. So they say, if you won't work with us, then it will end up very nasty for you. So you better work with us. But she, of course, refuses. And what do we see? Rembrandt picked this very moment to show her, her not her weakness, but her fear and she's naked. I mean, she's about to attack by two men. It's a horrible, horrible story. And he is portraying the woman in full light. And that makes her appear even more vulnerable in her nakedness. So what is Rembrandt doing? He is not painting an idolized woman, as in the 17th century and nowadays as well. We always want to make ourselves more beautiful. But that's not the case right here. She is really a woman of flesh and blood. She's real. She is scared. And there's a beautiful detail in the painting. Maybe Sandra, you can come close to her left leg, her left under leg, because what you see there is a print of her stockings in her calf. I don't know if you see my mouse moving on the screen or yours. Yes, exactly. Do you see this kind of stripe? Yes, exactly. That's it. It's a piece. It's a print of her stocking she was wearing. She just take them out. So that's what's making it very realistic, very it's daily life. It's what happens to us all the time if we undress and dress. We see the marks left behind by our clothes, by our stockings and underwear, etc. That makes it very, very special, because you hardly ever see these kind of details in 17th century paintings. So Susanna, as a person, she's a married, beautiful and law-abiding woman. There's nothing wrong with her. But the two guys are extremely important in her society, because they are newly appointed judges. So they have a lot of power. And they tell her, as I said before, they forced her into having sex with them, but she still refuses. And that makes the elders testify that she has committed adultery with the young man to the lawyer. And adultery at that time was sentenced by death. So Susanna will be condemned to a death punishment. And then she cries out to God for help. And God hears her in the Bible, of course. It's a biblical story. And he sends a person called Daniel, to come to her aid and to help her. And Daniel tells to the judge, the real judge, that the elders are spreading out lies. And then it's not Susanna who's put to death, but it's the two men who are trying to seduce her and to have sex with her, to rape her. And again, this is also happening to people in our countries. False stories, false stories to judges, so false punishments. What I want to say is that the story depicted by Rembrandt was very present at his time, but also present at our time. And that's why I like these paintings so much. You can hear and see stories to be told by 17th century paintings, but they're really valid to us as well. So there is a moral behind. But it's also something I want to point out. Susanna makes a beautiful biblical figure, And she is a perfect excuse to watch as a naked woman. So if you order a painting and you think like, hey, what shall I hang on my wall tonight? Well, you have a very good excuse to paint Susanna, because she's lawful and she's beautiful and she's also naked. So to a lot of men in the 17th century, that was of course a beautiful excuse to watch a painting like this. So far for the justice theme in my women tour. She was the first woman to show to you Susanna from the Old Testament, and she survived death punishment through the aid of Daniel, who helped her against false justifications. Okay, so this is our Rembrandt room. We have in total 11 paintings by Rembrandt, and that's an awful lot. And we're of course very happy with this amount of paintings, because Rembrandt is our genius storyteller from the 17th century. Here's the painting, by the way, I was describing before, the portrait of Rembrandt. These are all Rembrandt paintings. So again, I really, really hope you will see them for yourself one day in real life. Okay, we move slowly to another beautiful favorite of mine. And she is painted by Steen. If I translate his name into English, it would be John Stone. Steen. Steen is a miraculous guy. He owns a brewery, a beer brewery, and actually he went down with his company for 3 times. So he had a lot of debts, and how easy it was for him to pay his debts off by giving paintings to the people he owed money. So you can imagine Steen painted many pieces, hundreds actually. And we as the Mauritshuis have happen to have a couple of them. And why I like him so much is because his style is every time is different. Sometimes he makes beautiful big themes, but now we're looking at a very small painting again, like Susanna was also very small, only 30 centimeters high and 15 broad. So these are really pieces that seduce you to look, and they invite you to have a very close look actually. And that's the second theme of my talk. Again, we see a beautiful woman like Susanna. This girl has no name, so I just call her Girl, painted by Steen. But now the theme is seduction. Please, Sandra, can you zoom in very closely into her eyes? Look at those eyes. And I'm sure you can dive in even much more. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Now we're getting very close. Look at her. She is magnificent. So in real life, if you would stand in front of this piece, it's only 30 centimeters high, or not even, I guess. But now Sandra really gets very, very close into this painting. And you see her almost life size, like our own heads might be this size, approximately. Somebody says closer than I would see myself in a museum. Yeah, that's true. I love your chats. Okay, thanks for sending them as well. So we look at this girl. Her lips are a bit moist. Her eyes have this twinkle. Why is she looking at us like this? And what is happening behind? Okay, we see a scene, a man wrapping up things, selling it or giving it to a woman. Maybe they have a conversation, I don't know. Maybe they are in a love game, I don't know. But let's try and have a look what the girl is doing. What is she doing with her hands? Why is she looking at us like this? It might be shells or oysters. And it might be also the case that our girl is doing something with these oysters as well. Yes, look at it. She has a beautiful shell in her hands, and at the table there's a small piece of bread on a tin plate, and I think in total there are 4 or 5 oysters. And maybe you know that oysters stand for aphrodisium. So she wants to do something with you as a visitor, as a viewer, as a watcher of this painting. And she is using some white powder, and it must be salt, of course, to add some flavor to the oyster. So she wants something of you. And this is pure seduction. She is inviting you to come closer and closer and closer. And maybe she's inviting you to be very intimate. So that is what Jan Steen is doing here. He's trying to attract you and to get your attention, to draw your attention to these beautiful eyes of this naughty girl, actually. The jacket she's wearing might remind you of a jacket of somebody else living in our museum, and that's the girl with the pearl. We will end with her as the dessert of today's menu. But what I would like to tell is about the style. It has a round neck, and you see fur in the piece itself, and some beautiful cloth, and that's what Jan Steen is very good at. You see some lace embroidered at the collar, and then together with the fur and the flannel, it makes a beautiful combination of how to paint different pieces of cloth and textile. So this is, I think, really, really one of the most beautiful paintings. We see a Chinese water can. We see a German glass filled with German sweet wine, because German sweet wine goes very well with oysters. And you must know that in this period, it was absolutely normal to have Chinese porcelain at your table, because there was a huge, as you all know, influence from the settlement in Indonesia, where the Dutch stayed for 200 years. And this porcelain came through Canton, Guangzhou, and through Taiwan to Batavia at that time, nowadays Jakarta. And then it sailed off to the Dutch harbors, and then it spread its way through Europe. So it was perfectly normal to have Chinese tableware and of course German glasses and German wine. Sometimes in these kind of still lifes, we also see almonds and olives from Italy, olive oil from Spain. So there were a lot of influences when it comes to food and drinks from all over Europe. Yeah, so far I guess for this lovely tiny piece of Jan Steen. But there's more. Most of the time there's a moralistic story behind his pieces. But now you can actually see how small it is. It's really nothing. It's maybe one hand big. I think slowly we head for our third painting. And yes, there we have the girl, but we will do her later on. First, we dive into another tiny painting. It's all tiny today. I'm sorry about that. I can't help it. This is a new kind of way of telling and showing pictures, so every lecture will be completely different. If you would have asked me tomorrow, there would be a different selection. But now I felt into women and some themes. The next theme is taking care, and that might sound very familiar, of course, because we're all taking care for our own hygienics and our own body, and we will have our showers and we will dress in new washed clothes. But at the time of the 17th century painters, hygiene was even more important. Actually, what you see here is what you see all over the world, whether you're in Brazil or in New York or in Amsterdam or in Hong Kong, you will see women licing their children. Actually, I do it myself with my young kids as well. I don't know how it is with you guys, but in Amsterdam, there's a complete pandemic on lice again. So it's an everyday scene. And I love to watch people watching this painting because they recognize themselves. Like, hey, that was my mom doing to me. So we see a mother, and look please at her jacket again, because we see the same velvet and the same, maybe Sandra, you can dive into this painting as well. The same velvet of the largest piece of the body, and then the fur lines of the jacket itself. And then this woman is actually wearing a cap, a black cap, to keep your hair tidy, and of course to prevent the other lice coming in. Can you enlarge the image, Sandra?
No, this one isn't in gigapixel, unfortunately.
Sorry, this one is not.
No, this one isn't in gigapixel. No.
Oh, okay. This one is not in gigapixel yet, so that's we're working on. Okay, then we have to do it with this size. It doesn't matter that much, but then I have to convince you it's the same kind of coat she's wearing, like the girl before. Yeah, the taking care part is something that yeah, how to explain. The fact that all those visitors recognize themselves in paintings like this, it says something about how you want to how you want to seduce your public as a museum director or as a curator of this museum. How interesting is it to watch at something you do yourself? I think it's very interesting because it shows that we're all human. And we all struggle, and we all are looking for love or sympathy or recognition. We all suffer from diseases. We all lose people. We all go to work, and we if we don't have work, we suffer a lot. So it is very comforting, at least to me, that I can come very close to scenes depicted in the 17th century that are actually about human life in general. It helps me to understand life much better. And there is a research going on in the United States, and it was just published here last week, and it's about mental health. There are doctors describing museum visits to people who are in mental disorder and suffering from these kind of diseases, to help them out to engage with cultural objects, with museum objects, to as a kind of tool, helping you out of these struggles. And I really believe that. I hope I can convince you in how I describe this little painting. But I would love to discuss this topic with you later on after my tour, because it's also interesting to hear from your side how you look upon the way a museum should explain about paintings. It's not only about difficult mythological and biblical themes, it's also about understanding life and seeking comfort and joy in art in itself. Well, this is Gerard ter Borch. It is painted in 1653, and I think the Netherlands were at its highest point of wealth and also of cultural wealth at that time. There were thousands of painters in the Netherlands. Oh, there were 3 million paintings produced in the 17th century. And the population in the Netherlands was at that time only a couple of thousand people, like 120,000. So it's amazing the comparison between the amount of paintings, the number of painters, and the people who owned paintings in the 17th century. Even a tailor or farmer or a bakery, they also had paintings hanging on their walls. So you can imagine how incredibly popular these paintings were. Okay, then Gerard ter Borch, we will leave you for the moment and we will head towards our fourth and last painting, and that's of course a piece very well known. If you type 10 most popular or most well-known paintings in the world, she will be definitely in this top 10. She's the girl with the pearl, het meisje met de parel in my language, in Dutch. And yes, she is wearing a huge pearl, and it must be from Southeast Asia. It must be familiar to you guys. And it's not without a reason that she's wearing this pearl, because again, through this trade lines with Batavia in Indonesia and also India, China, Taiwan, Japan, a lot of jewelry, different kinds of jewelry, gold, silver, but also minerals, and all kind of jewelry was traded through Asia into Europe. Pearls were extremely popular in the 17th century, and they were worn by princes and princesses and kings and queens, but also by rich burghers, rich everyday people were wearing them as well. So there's only a tiny, tiny piece of white paint. Do you see that? It's like kind of comma. Or the half part of a yin-yang figure. And this tiny piece of white paint is so touching, because if you zoom out again, you will see a pearl. And now you see a round object with this white piece of paint. And it's just suggestion, of course. And do you also see the lips of the woman, the lips of the girl? Again, like the girl we saw before, the girl with the oysters by Steen, the lips are a bit moisty and they are half open. And it's also, again, very attractive in a way to watch, because it's about, she's trying to tell us something. She's just opening her mouth to say hi, or maybe she said something, she said hello. Or do you want me to sit like this, painter? Sandra is zooming in very, very closely now. So you see also her teeth. And again, those white touches that really give perspective to her mouth. Yes, it is our beloved pearl. She is our greatest treasure. And thousands of people are coming to the Mauritshuis every year to see her in real time. She's also called the Mona Lisa of the North. But she's becoming so popular, even more popular than the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, that Mona Lisa could also called the girl with the pearl from the South. If you watch on Google or Facebook or TikTok, you will come across pictures of the girl in a thousand different manners, and young girls, but also women of my age, and also even men and boys love to dress up like the girl with the pearl, and they come and make selfies of themselves. She's incredibly popular, and you come across her everywhere. And why is that? Why is this painting so genius? Why is that? There are many answers to this. Well, one of the answers is Johannes Vermeer. He's the painter, and he's a mystical person in itself. He turned 33, then he died. He only made about 30 paintings in his life, and we hardly know anything about him. So the guy himself is a mystery. So that's of course interesting, because you start to think that you want to know who she is, and maybe she's his daughter, maybe she's his fiancée, maybe she's just the girl next door. We don't know. So is this a portrait? That's another question. Intriguing. Is this girl really existing, and was she wearing those clothes? Or is it a tronie? And a tronie is a Dutch word for a kind of portrait, but it isn't a portrait. A tronie is a fantasy person. She might have lived, but she never might have been dressed like this. So she's wearing a turban, a turban from the Middle East. But she's not from the Middle East actually herself. She has blue eyes. We can see that from up close. So she in herself is also a mystery. Did she exist? Yes or no? We don't know. We have no clue at all. Then there is something else. She's looking at us. Look at her eyes, her irises. And please have a close look to, again, the white piece of, the white touch of paint that mark the sparkle in her eyes. She's really, really looking at us. And that's typical for Vermeer, because Vermeer never ever paints girls watching us. His girls are always reading a letter, or writing a letter, or doing some needlework, or busy with something else. This is the only painting Vermeer made where a figure, the head figure, is watching us. So that's also a mystery. Why? Why is she all of a sudden watching us, where other people in his paintings are focused on something else? Why is she so intriguing? Because at a certain time she wasn't. She's only rediscovered, I should say, in the 19th century. In 1882, a person bought this piece on an auction, at an auction I should say, for only 2 guilders. 2 guilders. If you would recount that into today's currency, it would be 25 euros. It's nothing. 25 euros. It's really nothing. How come? How come people did not like Vermeer before, and now we're crazy about him? It's just insane if you think about it. 2 guilders. And it's over a couple of 100 million euros right now. If we would have to sell it, of course we will never do that. But the estimation is how come we like her so much? Is it because every time has its different styles we admire? Is it because we just didn't see the beauty of it? I think that's a real intriguing question. Why people did not like her that much in the 19th century or in the 18th century? Why did we tend to forget about her? It's just very interesting to think about that. Well, we discovered some new things about her when we did research on the painting with 28 scientists from all over the world. There was X-ray, there was a extreme larger zoom lens than Sandra has in her hands right now. We had all kinds of procedures for this research, and we found out that actually when she was painted in the first place by Johannes Vermeer, she had eyelashes. And now, due to time, they are vanished. So the eyelashes are vanished. How different must she have looked at present day time, 1665, when she was painted? Because the eyelashes are gone. There's even also no eyebrows. Maybe these pieces are gone as well. So you see a little bit, some distinction of eyelashes, but it's hard to see. We also discovered that she's standing of a green curtain, which is almost invisible for our naked eyes. But actually, through X-ray and other devices, we know that she's standing in front of a green curtain. We also found out that the pigments used by Johannes Vermeer are from all over the world. For instance, her turban is made of lapis lazuli. So maybe you know that painters make their own pigments. And if you grind lapis lazuli, the stone from Afghanistan, the beautiful blue, very blue stone, if you grind the stone, you have a blue powder, and this blue powder turns into a pigment if you add some oil to it. So then you have this extremely beautiful blue, very deep blue color. And Vincent van Gogh was also crazy about this color when he painted the Starry Night in France. Maybe you have that painting in front of you. And the red lips, if we can go back to the lips, they come from Mexico. There's this very small animal. It looks like a lice, but it is not a lice, but it looks like a lice. Very small insects, and if you grind them, you have this red powder. And if you add some egg or oil, then it becomes paint again. So the lips are from Mexico, and the turban is from Afghanistan, and the ochre from her jacket is from another pigment again. So we discovered all those pigments coming from all over the world. And yeah, it's a global picture. Thank you, Kilian Chan. And we all love her, and we keep on loving her, and she will never ever bore us because she's just amazing. I don't know which theme to attach to her. We had justice, we had seduction, we had, what was the third? Care, yeah? Motherly care. And what is the theme we can put on the girl? I'm very anxious to hear your ideas on this question. So thank you very much for listening to my story and to Sandra's story. And I really hope we can answer some questions if you have them. So I'm open to them. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Charles speaking from the Wall Street Journal, the marketing manager of the Best Rate Plus. Yeah, I'll be doing the Q&A panel for this wonderful tour. So yeah, I may start with myself. If you got any questions, type in your question to the chat box, please. Then I may start with mine first. On the creation of the theme, we've got feminism for this time, since everyone's talking about diversity and inclusion. So may I know any like DEI initiatives for Mauritshuis in future, Asian focus, when we're talking about Dutch East Indies, Indonesia, Batavia, Jakarta, Formosa, which is Taiwan, or do you have any plan touching on any like ethnicity or even the LGBTQ as a future film on the artworks?
I cannot hear you very well, but I heard
diversity and inclusion projects.
Are you including arts from Southeast Asia into our future projects? Is that your question?
Oh, I was saying diversity and inclusion, since we've got like Black Lives Matters, we've got like Asian ethnics, we've got like LGBTQ pride group, we've got women's group, since you were creating, you just describing a really wonderful feminism approach. Any like DEI approach for Mauritshuis in future?
Yeah, well, we have some controversial themes for the future, some very important themes. For instance, looted art will be one of the themes we will work on in 2023. Our country has some looted art from the former colonies, but also looted art looted by the Germans in World War II, but also looted art looted by Napoleon Bonaparte in the end of the 18th century. So these three stories will be all together in one exhibition, looted art in general. That's one of the topics we're working on. But I think you're heading more, you said something about diversity and colonialism in general. Yes, we're also working that on a permanent base in our museum, because the Mauritshuis was once established by Johann Maurits. And Maurits was the governor in Dutch Brazil. And at that time there was, of course, slavery going on, and he took a large role into slavery himself. He sold them, he bought them, he owned them, and he brought them also back to the Netherlands. So his private story dealing with slavery and enslaved people from Brazil is a very important fact in our museum, and we pay a lot of attention on it. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure different dimensions or perspectives could help like further engage with the community,
Yes,
for the,
yes.
like what we call to pass on the arts introduction to the next generation. And we've got like quite a few questions from the chat box. Can we, or from Jennifer, can we access the collection online from Hong Kong? Is it free? Any copyright issues when you guys doing the digitalization of the art pieces?
Sandra can answer this question as well, maybe even better than I can, but all our pictures are free to use. So if you use them, you can go use them in any way, unless it is for a commercial goal, then it's different, of course.
Yes, and this virtual tour is also available for everyone all over the world for free. We will share the link to this virtual tour at the end of this this presentation, and you can join and wander around yourself.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much. Really glad to know that it is free for everyone, since art should be like for everyone, from my point of view. Since Sandra, you are having a mic, I'm going to like ask you about what is the biggest difficulty in the digitalization project? Do you need to like pay extra attention for the artwork's protection, since I'm sure quite a lot like camera or special flashes for the gigapixel project?
Well, the most difficult thing over here during creating this project was the fact of COVID-19, the pandemic, because we had this amazing tool, this amazing photography tool that we can create a digital Mauritshuis, but well, all the techniques were in Spain at that moment. And no one from Spain could come over to Holland and to create this tool. So we created an online event, and one of my colleagues was trained to shoot with and work with the gigapixel camera. And then all the techniques were shipped and flew in by plane to the Netherlands, and we could capture this. But of course, yes, it's very important when developing new techniques that it doesn't involve and doesn't affect the collection in what way or another. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra. So on the technology front, since I've been doing my little homework, there is one virtual see and smell project. Is it with the fragrance shipped over for the audience along with the tour? Can you explain a little bit more to us?
Sandra, oh yeah, Sandra, please.
About our current exhibition, you mean the smell tour? Yes, we had an exhibition this year about smells of paintings. And it was opening on in February, and it was a beautiful exhibition about paintings that, well, if you were seeing the paintings, you knew there had to be a smell, stinking canals in big cities, or beautiful smells of beautiful flower bouquets. And we actually, we designed with a smell team, we designed these smells, and you could smell the sense of the paintings inside the exhibition. But then we had a challenge because it was COVID-19, and museums were closed, and they remained closed for a few months. And that brought us up to the idea to create a smell box. You could order it on our website. And in the box was a digital tour through the museum with 4 of those smell flacons, smell boxes. And well, during the tour, you could smell the sense of the paintings itself.
May I ask a question? When you say you can smell the sense of the painting, is it actually the musk smell of the painting, or are we talking about, let's say there's an oyster in the painting and you want to project the smell of the sea? Is that what you mean by smell of the painting?
Absolutely, yes.
Right. Just to say,
we together with this, we work together with the Sense team, as same as you create perfumes. But then we created not the perfumes that smell so delicious, but these perfumes smelled like rotting canals or beautiful flower bouquets, or all the different things you can actually see on a painting and have a certain smell.
We have so many good questions coming in from the audience today. Maybe we can have a read through. So Edith asks, how is it that Hans van Meegeren was able to fool so many people with his forgeries if Vermeer was already established as an iconic painter by the 20th century? Perhaps Martine, you'd be able to that.
I love this question, and it's very puzzling. For people who don't know, Hans van Meegeren is a painter from the early 20th century. So he lived around 1920, 1930, 1940. And he made paintings as if they were done by Jan Vermeer from the 17th century. And he made about, from my head, 10 paintings as if it was a Vermeer. And they were on the market, at an auction, and they were sold for thousands and thousands and thousands of guilders at that time. And people really thought they were Vermeers. Genuine 17th century paintings. And why did people think they were Vermeers? Because they wanted them to be Vermeer. There was a Vermeer rage going on. Everybody just discovered Vermeer. I told you before, this girl with the pearl, she was bought in 1882. And then everybody was so much in love with Vermeer, and everybody tried to discover his own or her own Vermeer. So people were looking at auctions, at attics. Can we find more? So that's also part of the Vermeer mystery. But they wanted it so much to be a Vermeer. If we look at Van Meegeren's paintings right now, then we think, oh, it's impossible. It's so different than a genuine Vermeer. So it's a beautiful question, Ida. I'm puzzled like you. It's impossible to see a Vermeer nowadays in Van Meegeren's paintings, but at that time, it's wishful thinking. You just want it so badly, and then you want it to be.
Great. Since we've got one question from Alexandra. So, can you let us know any latest research initiatives on the permanent collection? Any special projects you guys working on for existing collection, for new initiatives in the near future?
Again, I did not hear you that well. I'm sorry.
New research initiatives on the permanent collection, and
okay,
just like new projects.
Yeah. Yes, we're working with the Rijksmuseum on our Vermeers. Together with them, we have a team of like 7-8 scholars who are looking at all Vermeer's paintings in different manners, like I talked before with the X-ray. We examine the paint being used, we examine the layers behind the paint, the ground drawing, the very first drawing on the canvas. So Vermeer will be always interesting to us. So that's an ongoing thing. Then we're also looking at what happened to the Mauritshuis collection during World War II. That's another big research project, because the Nazis were taking over the museum, and I have a beautiful photograph of the galleries. The frames are still hanging, all the frames are still there, but they're empty. So all the paintings were rolled up, if they happen to be made of canvas. All the panels were taken off. So it's a very weird situation that was going on. Are there paintings being sold to important people from the Nazi regime? Were they traveling to Germany or to Austria? What happened to the collection at that time? So we are researching this period as well. Yeah, and then, as I said before, there's an ongoing project researching the whereabouts of Johan Maurits, the colonial governor in Dutch Brazil, and what is his part in slavery, in the transatlantic slave trade. That's ongoing as well. That will take a couple of years.
Yeah, so we are expecting a few more exciting digital projects from Mauritshuis in future. But having said, given that we are running out a little bit of time, so we may have taken one more question. Feel free to type it at the chat box. But at the time being, Martine, can you let us know, or you prefer like a bottom-up approach or a down-bottom approach when we try to connect the majestic class and the human beings, like the premium arts and normal people like us? Which approach you would suggest us using?
Yeah, I would like to hear from you guys. I would love to hear because we have this approach of art should tell us something, teach us something. You can also enjoy it without gaining any knowledge. You don't have to understand the moral lesson or the biblical story or the mythological story behind it to enjoy it. But it's also a way of seeking comfort, of seeing the human part, the human tragedies, the human joy, the love we're looking for on an everyday basis. So this human part is very important to us, and I would love to hear from the audience if that would be appealing to them, or do you only want to see the masterly part, the genius of Rembrandt, the genius of Vermeer, the genius of Steen? Are we looking at it from that side? And I think this combination is beautiful, that you, on one hand side, you enjoy watching paintings because it's amazing how they are made and you can't figure out how they are made, and it's just a puzzle in itself. And on the other hand side, it's about being like we're all being part of this world. We're intertwined globally, and we're enjoying art so much because it tells something about ourselves. So that's the human part against the masterly part, and I'm convinced that would be a nice approach. But maybe you have a complete different view. So I'm very curious about your ideas.
Yeah, one phase I copy from your presentation would be from the mental health.
Yeah.
Excellent arts or arts appreciation from different tour, no matter physical tour or digital tour. Mental health, how to heal the wound, since all human beings, all the art lovers, including all attendees here joining us today, we've been suffering quite a lot from the pandemic, from the happenings in Afghanistan, all over the world. We need some like solution or like a special herbs to heal the wounds. That's why I'm really impressed with the mental health. That's why I came on that question of like, do we do it as a bottom-up approach or down-bottom approach?
I think both is interesting, but is there anyone who would like to react on this?
Yeah, anyone at the chat box? Or Sandra, Maria, you've got any like additional comments to make? Anything we can make the world better? apart from like checking out the digital tour, or even though to visit Mauritshuis one day when travel restrictions lift.
I'd like to take an analogy from reading, or a writer, he writes a screenplay and it's words on a paper, but until it becomes lived in by actors, then it actually comes to life. So I suppose with art, we learn so much, we research so much, we get sucked into the details and are in awe of it. And I guess in the moment we enjoy it, but then what happens afterwards? What do we do with the knowledge that we gain, or what do we do with the emotion of joy or even perplexity that we face when we look at a painting? I think so much of it is about what you do after you have that experience. And I also wanted to, it was so amazing. We had people from the audience who were asking, can you zoom in? And I think now that you've shown this possibility of the technology to us, we're spoiled. Like every time we go to a museum, we're gonna have to go, face up to the glass. And in fact, you might need to put extra measures of protection, who knows? So I think it was just an amazing opportunity to see and to take the time as well with Martine, as you sat in front of each painting and you talked it to us, the stories. We hardly, in a museum space, perhaps you're walking and the people traffic is going. We might not actually take the time. So this is actually, even though it was a small section, I think it was very much a well-digested section that we all had today. If anyone else would like to ask questions, I think if not, then we can wrap up and
and we can take all the questions offline. We can keep on the communications between us. I'm sure it's just like the first beginning between all of us. I'm sure we would like to visit Mauritshuis one day in person.
Yes, please. Yes, you're very welcome, of course. And if you ever come to The Hague or to Amsterdam, then don't forget visiting the Mauritshuis. We will love to see you here. And other way around, I would love to visit Hong Kong because I never did that. I never visited your place. And my grandfather used to work in Hong Kong. He was sailing up the river in one of those beautiful sailing ships you have there. So I would love to meet with you also, but maybe in due time.
Yes, I think we have one more question, which, so I'm going to read the question. We are in an age of crossover. So recently, there was an initiative done by Pornhub curating classic nude arts in Museum d'Orsay, the Met, the National Gallery. And how do you see how far this crossover can go, considering that the art of erotica has been with us humans for as long as we have been around? So that's a question to you, Sandra and Martine. And Charles, if you have any thoughts you would like to add.
I love any new stuff, any new crossover would be nice, would be catching my attention.
Sandra, do you have something to add to Charles' contribution?
Yes, well, in any way that we can make our current or our art from the museum and connect it to the current world of today, that way it has my attention, absolutely. And a lot of, as Martine mentioned, when we were discussing Susanna, a lot of these paintings in those days were also having parts of pornography in it. It was of course, it was a biblical story, but people chose biblical stories about naked women because it was also very interesting to having a naked woman in your house.
Yeah, I think it's a very important question because we're also working on an exhibition on Dutch nudes from the 17th century. And when are those girls entirely in control of their own bodies, of their own wishes, of their own comfort, of how far, in which way did they really take part of the consideration as a project. I want to paint you. Do you want to be painted naked by me? How far does the power go of such a girl, of such a model? we never ever know, because their sources are muted. We don't know their diaries, we don't know their letters to their mothers, or so we don't have those sources. But it's something to acknowledge, and it's something to admit. But is it also a reason not to show them anymore? I don't know. It's a very, very complicated question. But as soon as you know that the model in a painting is misled or seduced to do something she wouldn't like to, in that case it's something else, because then you do have the sources to say something about it. It's a very, very complicated story, but I think we should not walk away from it. I hope you can follow us on that exhibition as well, and dive into our struggle with it, because there's no answer yet. And maybe because we're so global attached through Zoom meetings, which I really, really love, we don't have to look for answers on our own. I mean, we're all together in this, and maybe we can help each other out with this amazing puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure, as I said for twice right now, it's just the first beginning. I'm sure we group together along with all attendees in getting our new interesting ideas for future potential projects between like two continents, more than like 6,000 miles away.
Yeah. Thank you, Charles. I really love that idea. Thank you.
So thank you very much indeed. We are slightly over on, so do have a nice evening in Asia, and do have a nice afternoon in Europe. Thanks for having me. Yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for having us.
Bye, guys.
And for those who are attending, if you stay around, you can have a QR code that directs you directly to the virtual experience. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.